Welcome to Real Talks with Pinks. Thank you for the love we've been receiving on the channel. Keep liking, commenting, and subscribing to the channel. We did promise you we'll bring you another episode where we talk about public schools. So I have my two guests today, and then I'm going to introduce the topic of the day. Bontate, can you please introduce yourselves?
I'm Thabang Rants'o. I'm currently working in the biopharmaceutical industry. I think I should stop at that.
Okay.
That's just me. Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay. Thejane Malakane is my name. I'm a professional teacher. I'm also a Vaki teacher ambassador. I became a Vaki teacher ambassador through the endeavors of doing exemplary work as a teacher. So I was nominated as one of the top 50 best teachers in the world.
Okay.
And I'm also an environmentalist. Basically, that's me.
Oh, okay. Oh, Thejane is talking about things we don't know, but that's okay. Before we go any further, as you can see, my face bit, I look cute. So my makeup is done by Havila Makeup. You can find it on Facebook and on Instagram. I will be linking their pages down below, and then you can find out where you get them. You can buy their products. You can get someone as an agent to come and do your makeup. They do house calls. So yeah. So let's get straight into the topic. We are going to talk about our experience. I'm actually interviewing and still on the panel today. So we're going to talk about our experience with attending public schools. As you know, I did bring you an episode where we were talking about private schools. So today we did bring people who attended public schools to share their experience. Bontate, let's get straight into it. I don't know where we want to start, but just as a disclaimer, one of our viewers told us that there's levels to private and public schools, so we must sort of try and explain what we mean by just public schools, because they were arguing that I attended a public school, but I felt like it was top public, not public. If you know what I mean. Yeah.
Of course.
There's one thing possible how and then Lesotho school. Yeah. So I'll start with you, Thejane. Please just tell us where you went to school, maybe primary and high school if you want to. You can do the same. And then tell us, how was the experience attending the school that you attended?
Okay. I first attended school at Murija Primary School. Mm-hmm. And I would say luckily I was not part of kindergarten, which is crèche. My mother homeschooled me for crèche, and she did a very wonderful job.
Okay.
So she then decided to take me to Murija Primary, where I spent my 7 years doing my primary level. And the experience was quite exciting because I got to meet people from relatively all walks of lives.
Okay.
Because we'll be having kids that come from well-off families, average families, and those that live below the poverty line.
Okay.
So I was lucky to mingle those type of people, and I think the space helped me to navigate my life in a better way, especially in dealing with people. You know, collaborations, networks. So it kind of helped me. And then I further moved to Thabang High School, which is still a public school.
Okay.
Although the proprietor is the church.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a particular church. And I did again meet a variety of people who became friends. Others just became, acquaintances. But I did learn a great deal of how to blend with people. From a classroom level, even outside. I'm saying outside because even now I'm meeting some of my former students, or my former years. And we have alliances, we have connections.
Okay.
And we have formed those strong bonds, either in business or in professionally.
Okay.
So I would safely say I think I have gained a lot of confidence in blending with people. Looking at my life, I think at a personal level, the strides that I've made professionally I would count that or put that as a result of the networks that I made
in your high school.
In my high school, yes.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, Thabang, can you tell us your experience looking at the curricula and maybe extramural that you got from the two schools that you attended from maybe primary to high school?
All right. I did my primary school at Mutimposo Primary School. Yes. Just a few kilometers away from home. So it was definitely a school how I would refer to. What I would say is the experience that I got from that school is, public schools, especially in the community, there is always that teachers always pay more attention to those students that are doing well. Because they want to have at least 10 people that have done well. They pride themselves in the smaller portion of the class.
Top 10
that I produced 5 first classes, in as much as there are a bunch of third classes, but I'm very lucky that I had 2 teachers actually. The other one, back then, I wasn't doing quite well because I think I had not yet unleashed my potential. So I was one of those students at the back. And then thank God I got another teacher. Then I got to really climb up, and I was always part of the top 3 in my class.
Oh, so you got
from
the
where
attention.
I was. So I was part of the attention. But what I liked about my teacher was he tried really to bring those that were far to the front. But I realized that if your student isn't really doing, or your child isn't really doing well, public school, it's not an option really, because sometimes they tend to focus on those that are doing well and leave those that are not doing well behind. Only an exceptional number of teachers are able to actually pull others. But I will be frank, the attention is mostly given to those that are doing well, just to push them through the system so that they can go to better schools. Wow. And one other experience before I moved to my high school, just in a few seconds. Public schools somehow pull, or sometimes you grow up without confidence, to a point that after I had finished writing my standard 7, when we were supposed to apply, my mother and I didn't want to apply for Lesotho High School because we thought, we come from a community school, we are not from a well-off family, those myths. I would call them myths because they didn't apply to me. If they were happening for other people, then maybe they were. They would say that you need to come from a well-off school, your parents should be rich, flash the car keys, going into the school to negotiate for you. So to a point that my teacher actually told me that if you don't apply for that school because I know you will make it, I'm going to shred your application and write one that will go to Lesotho High School because I know for a fact that you will make it there. So we ended up agreeing to that, applied to Lesotho High School. But still, I didn't want to even tell the village mates that I applied to Lesotho High School. I would always call my second choice and say that's why I applied to, because I was afraid they would scrutinize me, they would tell me lots and lots of stories. Do you think you can make it there? So and so from an English medium or a private school didn't make it there. What about you from a community school, a public school for that matter? But bottom line, I ended up making it to Lesotho High School. My mother never went there to negotiate for me. My name was there on the admission list in a plain black and white paper, and I went to Lesotho High School. Then I guess Lesotho High School would say it's a top class public school. True. Like you're saying, We're talking about the spectrum. There were also challenges there coming from a community school or a public school. Students would usually refer to us as people from Sesotho medium and kind of marginalize us, but after a few tests, the noise began to subside as we were proving to be of equal strength and intelligence as them. And we had to work extra hard. And I guess it gave us motivation to prove the point. And in doing so, it propelled us forward because we needed to prove that we are also capable. It's just that our parents couldn't afford to take us to public schools, to private schools, but we are more than capable. So that's the experience.
Oh, wow. This is an interesting story. So I am a proud product of Hotlo Primary School. and St. Catherine's High School. So when I say St. Catherine's, for people who are probably watching from South Africa, it's not St. Cat as in private. A lot of schools that have St. in the context of SA are private. Mine is a public one. So I feel like my experience with Hotlo Primary is similar to yours. It was just a public school. I used to walk to school. There was nothing much fancy. But at the time, it was sort of a good public school. So you get kids from all walks of life, from all over, and they were being dropped off. I was walking to school. Sometimes when my mom had forgotten to give me lunchbox, she would just drop it off at 11 during break. You know. I mean, I enjoyed myself so much, and I met people from all walks of life. At that time, we were too young, so there was not much. They were not bullying us. I think I had a really good experience. The only issue was with, I was very playful. And to your point about more attention is given to kids who excel. There was a point when I was not in the top 10, but I was a very capable child. So my teachers wrote me off as Manino Wababa, period. Everything in the parents' meeting, Manino Wababa. So in my mind, I was just like, oh, okay. It registered in my mind. So all the time, I was just always a playful child. I never really put an effort. My sister used to say, whenever we pass it, I feel like you don't read, you don't do anything, you're just going through the grades, you know. Until I got to St. Catherine's and I sort of pulled up my socks because I was like, my sister is passing too well. So in the family, it's like, you have to get first class. What are you doing with your life? So I sort of pulled my socks just because my sister was my inspiration. But in particular, I know the one thing that traumatized me when I was in St. Cat's is that my maths teacher said to me, there was a point when I was passing maths, I think I was in Form A or Form B, and then I failed one test. So in my class, what they used to do after a test, the teacher would call out your names, the papers, according to how you passed. And then in that maths class, you would sit according to your grades. So there was a time when I was in the first row. And then when I failed, I was at the back. So he said in class, you remember Pinky. I'll say it in Sesotho so that people can relate, and then I'll translate. Le amohopola Pinky. Ola ka baka pele mona, ale pele mona. Ke yane morao mane o sa jola. That was it for me. And I was not dating, I was not doing anything. That thing just traumatized me. My confidence went down because I failed one test and my teacher just wrote me off. And that's the day I stopped passing maths. Up until today, I didn't do anything that had to do with maths. So that traumatized me. And I feel like that's the one downfall. I feel like they sort of do not pay attention to kids who were probably doing well. And now there are issues to try and find out. I mean, I've never been to a private school, but I hear they sort of give attention to other, like all the kids.
Yeah, they always have parents that was on speed dial, like the kid isn't doing well.
That's my experience, you know. And also maybe on extracurricular, there were no sports at my school, especially in primary. We used to run. That was the only sport that we had. Who knows? I could have been a tennis player. But anyway, so let's move on to the next question. You said you are a teacher. Interesting enough, you teach in a public school.
Of course.
Yes, and you are a proud product of your school. I want you to tell us, in your experience, some of the things that we are seeing in Thabang here, to say, as a teacher, what do you see in public schools, and what are some of the things that you're trying to change? Because I know some schools don't have internet. Some kids felt like they were disadvantaged when you got to NAL, you know, that type of thing. And you just speaking to your experience in the public school, what would you say to the parents and people watching?
I think the interesting thing is that teachers in particular, we are cut from the same cloth. That is, we come from same institutions. And what separates us is that idea of some teachers going to private schools and others going to public schools, period. Just as simple as that. But the line of demarcation comes where you see a particular school, being private school, having some values that teachers have to stick to. And on the contrary, on the public schools, you see things happening just as they come. Yeah. Plus, we have a government mandated curriculum, which every teacher has to follow. But in a private school, they have a customized, curriculum that they can have, that they believe this curriculum will breed a particular learner, after getting that curriculum. So I strongly believe that schools need to have clear rules in terms of what do they want to get out of the students.
Okay.
I want to reiterate a point that he gave earlier, that teachers marginalize students who come maybe back in terms of marks. They just put them at the back and focus on those ones who seem to be bright. It boils down to the type of teacher that is serving at that time. Are you willing to see the success of your students in general, or are you just there to, pick some few who seem to be bright, just to propel forward? So you need to have a teacher like me who is actually interested in seeing the whole group prospering in terms of academics, in terms of performance, even to the point of extracurricular activities. For instance, in my school, we just follow, like I said, a government, syllabus. Yes. The type of music that we are told to teach is just the type of notes that you have to read. But I have gone far to a point where I have outsourced musical instruments and I teach them how to play those instruments. And believe me, I'm building a group of, future artists who are going to revolutionize,
music
industry, the entertainment industry in terms of music. So I do believe that teachers need to have that heart for learners and to have that deep emotions to each and every learner and look at them as victors and as individuals, but victors.
Okay.
Yes.
What you're doing is really amazing, Thejane. I've seen you run programs for internet access and such things at your school, and you're sourcing out funding. It's brilliant. So Thabang, I want to come to you before we run out of time. Can you tell me, is there something that you think was not pulling you back? Let me rephrase it this way. When you got to university, because when you get to university, you meet students from all walks of life. Did you feel like you are far ahead, or you are maybe behind in some of the things? I don't know if there was computer at your school in high school. I know it's there now. Were there some of the things that you feeling like I'm left behind because of the type of schools I attended? Because people usually say where you come from may define you. Is that true, or you defied the odds?
I think I was very lucky to have transitioned from Mudimposo to Lesotho High School. I think the gaps that Mudimposo had left for me were actually closed by Lesotho High School.
Okay.
I actually felt when I got to high school, I had a full confidence because I came from a good school. So there wasn't any lack of confidence, thinking I wouldn't do it. In fact, we had the challenge that we could potentially have been really overconfident because of the school that you come from and the good grades that you have. But I was lucky to have met teachers that told me that when you get to the National University of Lesotho, forget about your grades from high school. Focus on working hard, because there are students that would not have seen a computer all their life, but they will excel in computer like no one's business. And if you come there and you feel like you know too much, you'll not be able to collaborate with other students, and therefore you'll be an island and you will suffer. So when I got there, nobody actually knew where I came from, because people thought I came from all sorts of schools, because I was with St. Stephen's students, Botabote, all the schools, because I was just there and collaborating with everyone. So I would say Lesotho High School really did their part, because there was computer. I would go to the computer lab, would learn. So there was that exposure. I already knew what I wanted to be in Lesotho High School because of the exposure, because it's like it was a melting pot of people from different backgrounds and experiences. So that we began to influence each other. People would tell you about things and you'd go home and search. You'd go for the first time, people like the state library when it was opened, and would go there and learn. So I would say Lesotho High School did close the gap, but I think had I gone to another school, I will not mention any school, but that didn't give me things that Lesotho High School gave me. I think I would have been left behind on a number of things.
Okay. I'm going to close it off by saying, please share maybe one good experience that you say, this is my takeaway from the schools that I attended. For the person that I am today, it's probably because of that experience. So for me, I would say, even though I sort of networked later on in life, but I would say the resilience I feel like I developed.
Yeah.
I think it's because of the schools that I attended. Like when I got to university and I further on went to UJ in South Africa, and then I went to the UK, I feel like all the resilience, even when you see things for the first time, and now at the time when we attended, there was no Wi-Fi, and you get to South Africa, you're struggling, you get to UK, you're struggling, the type of material that's available, that was never available in your undergrad. But I feel like I was so resilient, and where I am today, it's probably because of what was instilled in me from a young age. You could literally put me anywhere, I would survive. I don't know if others would say the same, but I feel like I would survive anywhere. So I don't know, what's your takeaway?
I think particularly looking at the high school that I went to, Thabang High School, I would say it channeled me to become focused. Yes, because in as much as Morija it's an educational hub, we felt that thing that there's no way you can make it in life without education. So being there and being one of them, I'll say it's a top school in the country, because that's where the education in Lesotho began. So we had that feeling that if you are here at Thabang School, you are bound to make it in life, no matter what. And education is the train that will take you there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, for me, my takeaway from the public school is, I think that's where my leadership potential began. Because I remember I was given a lot of responsibilities. I was a class monitor, I was a bookkeeper, had to make sure that the textbooks were good. I remember at some point in my report, my class teacher just wrote, he's a good leader, and that's all. He didn't comment about my academic work. So that's where, the spark for leadership began. And from there on, I've gone to different places and became a leader at every institute I think that I've been at. I've always mounted up to a leadership potential, to a leadership position, and I owe that to Mutimposo, because that's where the teacher saw my potential. I remember complaining that you can't give me two responsibilities, and it's like, I know you are more than capable of holding these responsibilities. Oh, wow. So that's where I started to develop. So that for me helped me, and also lastly, like you, it taught me how to push. It taught me into to force things, even if circumstances do not allow. I need to force things to happen, because I had to force my way around. I had to force my way through to get to where I wanted to be. I looked at where I was, I looked at the resources, and I was like, I've got to forge myself around this and get to the top. I had to forge myself to the Lesotho High School, and through, and I'm still using the same principle. I force things to happen, even if odds are against me. I will force things to happen, and I learned that from Mutimposo Primary School.
Big ups to Mutimposo. Oh my God, the time is always short when you're having a really nice conversation. Thank you so much, guys, for coming. It's been really good. I enjoyed the conversation so much, and I learned a lot. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. Tell us what you thought about our conversation. Comment down below, share our videos. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.
Bye.